Hi, Kansas.
And next will be Keith Fish.
Hi there.
And then Ira Wines.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
And then I will be rounding out the questions. So, Ms. Robinson, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and let us know, what got you interested in this position.
I'd be happy to. My family is originally from the East Coast, but I grew up out in Las Vegas in Nevada, and it's home. And that's where the vast majority of my career was in Las Vegas, and I had the incredible good fortune to have a variety of experiences while I was out there, from the comprehensive public school to charter school to private school and distance education, and it was an incredible experience in education for me. At some point, I decided, I think I want to go back east and get to know some aging family members that I had, and so I took the trip out to the East Coast, and I've had the good fortune of being in the number 1 and the number 2 state in the country for education. So you can imagine I have learned a tremendous amount about education and best practices and whatnot. And when I left Nevada, my older sister said to me, go ahead and go, but know that Nevada is home and you're going to get called back here. And sure enough, 9 years later, I got the call, and the call came in the form of my little granddaughter, who is absolutely precious. And now I am definitely feeling the call home. And I also have to admit to my older sister that she was right, which is not the best part of it, but that's okay. That's all right. So that's where I am right now. I'm ready to come home and to be back in Nevada. I'm very excited about it.
All right. Well, thank you. And I did not ask, what do you prefer to be called? Do you prefer Michele? Do you prefer Miss Robinson?
Michele is fine.
Okay. All right. Well, Michele, thank you for that. And home means Nevada, for sure. We all feel that way. All right. So share with us your favorite leadership experience.
Oh, wow. My favorite leadership experience. I think my favorite leadership experiences have come when I've had the opportunity to build something new. And I've had a lot of opportunities to do that. So one example is when I helped an organization open up a private school. It literally started with a file folder in the back of my car, and it became this wonderful school. We opened up kindergarten through 5th grade in the first year, which is an ambitious bite to take. And but boy, did we learn a lot. And the school is still going today, and it's thriving. And that was really exciting to be able to get people motivated and excited around a common goal, which was to get that school up and going. So I think it's motivating people, and I think it's getting them excited about a vision and about a goal that we're working on and going forward together. I had the same opportunity when I worked at the charter school. Distance education at that time, we're all doing it now, but at that time didn't exist. And charter schools didn't really exist anywhere, much less in Nevada. And we were at the ground floor building something brand new. And, we just had, again, the opportunity to lead a group and to work together as a group to create something that today has grown to serving 2,200 children and has earned the distinction, schools of distinction and 5 stars. And they're just, it's incredible to have been at the ground floor there. So I think that would be it. I think that's the thing that gets me most excited. I've been able to do things like that even in existing districts. In my current district, we had the need for technology. There was no technology. So we started a one-to-one program. And we, again, very ambitious. We had our entire high school completely one-to-one in the first year. And but it was the work leading up to it, the professional development, getting people excited about working on with these devices and in this new sort of way, and integrating technology into education. So that was a new something that we could bring, some programming that we could bring in and really help to support our children in their learning, but it was also something new. And everybody's coalesced around it, and we were able to, create, thankfully, a very robust and strong program. We're now elementary all the way through to our high school with one-to-one, and thank goodness, given the situation we're in today, that we did that and we were aggressive with it. So.
Thank you. Tell us something interesting about yourself that's not listed anywhere on your resume or in any of your supporting documents.
Ooh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm thought of to be a little bit different, so that'll be easy to come up with something. I think something different about me that it's not in there. Recently, I just taught a mindfulness class with a group of, we brought teachers together and parents together, and I did it for one of our PTAs, and I taught a 4-week mindfulness class, and it was twofold. It was to teach the practices, the stress release, and all the important things that come with that, but it was also an opportunity to bring teachers and parents together and to get parents involved. We're always looking for ways to get parents involved in what's happening in education. So it just completed, and then this situation happened. So we're still doing it. We're doing it remotely. We still meet once in a while and share practices with each other. So it's been a really great little community that we built together.
All right, thank you. It sounds like a very interesting experience. For this position, what do you consider your greatest strength, and what do you see as the greatest challenge?
Great questions. Greatest strength, I think the greatest strength that I know that I have and that I have exercised in every position that I've been in is my ability to build relationships, and to those relationships turn into partnerships. And the partnerships are always what increases and supports what we're doing in the district. And what we do in the district, I don't care where you are, what you do, your number one goal is to do what's best for children. So it's that ability to create these partnerships, to create programming, being able to integrate best practices into the needs that the district has, and again, being able to coalesce a team that is also driven by what's best for kids, which is that number one goal that we all share. It's the one thing that unites everybody, is that particular goal. So that is my greatest strength that I will bring to Elko. And that really sort of is the foundation and the underpinning for all of the other things that we do as educators and as leaders in districts. I think the biggest challenge that there are a few challenges that's facing Elko right now, and I think the biggest one is what's happening with the funding in Nevada and how it's going to impact the rural communities. And the good news about that, and I did a lot of research over the past several days so that I could sort of understand. I've read the minutes that the commission has put out as they're working on it, and I even spoke to somebody that I thought might have some insight into what's happening and where that's going to go, and what sort of impact it truly might have on our rural districts, our rural schools. And I think what has come out of that and the research that I've done, and listen, it's only been maybe a week's worth of research, is that at this point there's still more questions than there are answers, and that also is very challenging for you as a board as you're making plans on what you're going to be doing going forward. The good news is that districts are not alone in that. I know that another challenge that Elko has before them is increasing that graduation rate for children that are in the rural districts. And I think those are going to go hand in hand right now as far as challenges go when this funding is figured out. And as I said, good news is that there are other districts, other rural communities across the country that also have these similar sorts of challenges. And there's a body of best practices out there that we can pull from, and that I certainly have pulled from with my experiences in different districts and having to face financial difficulties, financial challenges, that level funding, which is ultimately what may happen for Elko, that with the hold harmless, that level is going to create that level funding, and eventually that level funding starts to eat away, as the increases in education go up, health costs, those sorts of things go up, and then being able to balance that with how are we going to raise that graduation rate. So, I've had experience in my previous district where we received level funding year after year after year. And as I said, I know that that eventually creates that gap that gets bigger and bigger. And there are areas that you have to be able to identify that you're going to be able to approach how you're going to go about doing this in a very thoughtful, systematic way, with the idea that the first thing you do is preserve the classroom. You have to preserve what's happening for children directly, and then, moving from there. And so I have a lot of ideas about how to do that, and I'd be happy to share them with you. And some thoughts about, facing those challenges that are coming up with Elko. I think you've got something that's going to happen here that's going to compound some challenges that you have.
Thank you. I appreciate all of your research into that. For sure, we've got some challenges ahead, and we've got good things ahead too. The next question will come from Tammy.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi, Michelle. First of all, I love your background. That's one of my favorite postcards.
I love a little retro.
Yes, it's awesome. I am not far from that location right now.
Oh, that's great.
Describe what great teaching looks like and how you can establish those expectations throughout an entire school district system.
All right, great teaching, again, I think great anything in education is that foundation of doing what's best for kids and that commitment to doing what's best for kids. And if a teacher has that, you can see it. It is translated in absolutely everything that they do, they say, and the way that they go about educating. Great teaching to me is having a growth mindset and being able to appreciate the fact that what you're doing today is terrific, but may not work tomorrow. And you've got to be open to being able to, immerse yourself in best practices and get excited about the learning that happens for teachers. I think an element of great teaching is the responsibility of the district and the administration to provide the professional development. Elko has incredible professionals there, and we, I know here in our current district, we have a huge importance to us is providing professional development. We can't ask teachers to continue to be innovative and to think in terms of that growth mindset and being able to modify for as your children and your populations evolve if we're not providing them with the tools that they need. And so we're coming up with creative ways to be able to do that so that we are not taking time away from the classroom. And we're finding teachers that have incredible skills and encouraging them to be leaders and to share their skills, not only by providing professional development, but also by sort of a peer mentorship or a critical friends model where they are working with each other, a coaching model, and helping build that way. So I think that's an important piece of what makes a good teacher, is that ability to be able to share and have those skills to be able to pass on. I believe it is a commitment, and I believe it is an absolute commitment to educating students. And it's But again, the district has responsibility in that, because in order to be able to do that, we have to have a real clear vision and a goal about where we want the district to go and what our expectations and what the aspirations of the community are for their children, and then be able to give the teachers the tools to be able to follow that goal. In my current district, I led them through the strategic planning process. And that process, that strategic plan that we utilize, is our foundation. It is the blueprint that we use as we are making decisions in regards to instruction and where we're going. And that strategic plan was based on the aspirations of the community, and that's the community of educators, the parents, community members, the aspirations they have for their children in receiving their education. Tim, I think there was a second part to that question that I may have not hit.
The second part was, how can you establish those expectations throughout an entire school district system?
Right, and I think it's through that. It's that vision. It's setting that vision. It's letting and encouraging and making it a big part of it, that our educators who are working closely with our children, they're on the front lines, and what the talents of your teachers are what determine how well your children are going to progress. So they've got to be a part of that. They've got to be a really important piece in creating that vision.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to hand you over to Brian now.
Okay, Brian, there you are.
Hi, Michele.
Hi.
All right, next question is, how does a superintendent work with the building principals and remain responsible to the board, its policies, and the approved district curricula?
Well, you know, I think I'm repeating myself here, but we have to remember the foundation, and what pins us all together, what ties us all together, is that vision of doing what's best for kids. We're all united by that. And so I don't find that to be a challenge, frankly, in the work that I do, because I know that everything is based on the premise that that's why you're here. That's why you give of your time to be on the board. It's not a glamorous position that you have, and it's because you're committed to doing what's best for children, and so are the educators that are working with them. So, you know, I have an excitement for what I do. I have an excitement for education, and it's still, after almost 30 years and 12 years as a superintendent, it still excites me to see the innovation and the excitement that educators have through that commitment. So I don't find that to be a challenge, and I find it actually something that I enjoy, is being able to bring groups together. I'd love to have, in my previous district, we did this more so than now, but we had children presenting at board meetings, so that the board can see firsthand what our children are doing, and they can see, they can interact with and have their own relationships with principals and with the educators. I think that's important, that they know that the board is there supporting them, and that the teachers, you see what they're doing. It's one of the things I appreciated about Elko, as I was looking back through some minutes, that there were teachers that stood up and said and gave opinions about things that they would like to see in the district. And I think that's fantastic, that there's that ability to be able, that openness and willingness to be able to hear what that makes a connection. So I look at my relationship with principals as definitely colleagues working together, and I'm really about coaching and motivating teams to be able to work together. It's incredibly important that we bring parents in on this partnership that we have in supporting children, and that we bring community members in. I've had the opportunity to build a lot of partnerships in my district, and I think that's how you balance it, is that you show the tie, how everything is tied together, and how we are all tied together and unified by that goal. So it's something that I absolutely love to do. I think it's important.
Thank you. We're going to go next to Jim Cooney.
I'm Michele.
Hi, Jim.
Thank
How are
you. Good. And thank you so much for being available here. My question is, please discuss your experiences with and your interest in alternative programming for those students who may be at risk of failure in traditional school settings.
Absolutely. Another thing that's near and dear to my heart. And there's like a few layers to this. So one of the experiences I had in my previous district is we had an alternative high school, and it was a very small high school. We had our comprehensive high school, and then we had a small alternative high school. And it had been created, and it was doing a wonderful job. We brought in some practices, trauma-informed practices. We brought in, again, created some partnerships with the community, mental health providers, and people who had expertise in alternative education for students, and we were able to expand the high school and create a foundation and a structure for it so that it really was able to meet the needs of this population, and that to that point, we had not really been able to support. And in fact, we were also able to create such a strong foundation, particularly with the trauma-informed practices that we put in there, that at the time that I was leaving, we were just getting to the point where we were going to start accepting students on a tuition basis. So, and that was a mechanism that we were able to do with our district. So we not only then were able to create this great resource for our community, but we were now creating a bit of a revenue stream and also being able to expand what we were able to do for students. So I feel like there's just so much resource around us, particularly in partnerships, that it's really important that we provide these alternative avenues for our children. The other experience I had was in Las Vegas in the charter school. It was a hybrid distance education charter school, and as I said at the time, they didn't have this kind of program, so it was unheard of. And it was I'm a bit of a risk taker, but I'm a very informed risk taker. So there was a lot of research and work that went into that, and it was all about creating a community and an opportunity for students that were at risk in the traditional school setting. And I know that you have the academy there in Elko, and I commend you for having the insight and the taking that risk and going for that innovative approach to providing education for children. That different way of providing it is just critically important, because not all children, one size does not fit all. And so that was significant, that program that we created. And as I said, it's still going strong. In my current district, we're also bringing in trauma-informed practices. We don't have an alternative high school or an alternative setting, as distinct as we did in my previous district. We do have programming for it, but it's not, as I said, it's not really a separate sort of thing. But we're bringing in trauma-informed practices, and we are instilling them as far as professional development and the process we take. We're doing it district-wide. And I have always felt very strongly that if we want children to be ready to learn, to be able to come in every day and flourish under the experiences that we provide for them, we have to make sure that they are ready to learn. And part of that is making sure that their social, emotional, and mental health needs are met. And to that end, we have, as I said, brought in trauma-informed practices. We have a partnership with a couple of mental health providers. And in our middle schools, we have mental health providers that are actually right in our schools and providing support. And in our high school, we have what I loosely call a mental health clinic. It again is another practitioner who's right there working directly with students. And one of the things that they're providing is, because we're doing great work with kids, and we are able to do threat assessments, and we're able to meet the kids immediately right where they're at, as they're struggling, as they're needing to have some alternative supports put in place for them, but we're also then providing it for the parents. And we had started a parent series of parent workshops, and giving them tools to be able to work with their children, particularly as children may be struggling. And I just got an email from one of our practitioners today. We had a whole series planned out for the year. We've had a couple of wonderful workshops in person, and now we have to, figure out how to do it in this new environment. And they're already created. They shared with me a couple of virtual workshops, webinars that they've put together, and they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. I can't wait to get them out to the parents. So there's a lot of pieces to it. It's providing these alternative opportunities, but it's also, again, laying a foundation that's going to be able to support children while you're also looking for these other opportunities that pop up.
Okay, thank you. The next question is going to come from Candace Wines.
Hi, Candace.
Hi, Michele. It's very good to meet you, and thank you for joining us today. My question is, based on your professional experience, what would you consider indicators of a successful school district?
Indicators of successful school district. There's so many to think about. I'm going to go back to what I said before. I think when a district has identified and worked with a community and identified the aspirations that a community has for their children, that's a number one indicator. I think that's really important, because you have created a partnership with parents and with the community members, because it's not just the parents, it's the businesses and it's the organizations, and they all have aspirations for how they want to see their children succeed and move on. So I think that's a number one thing. Do you have a plan? Do you have a goal and a roadmap that we're all working on and going on together? I think obviously, and very important, are we seeing our children progress? Are they having success academically? And that success may look different for different children, but are we going in the right direction? And so an indicator is, how rich is your professional development programming that you have for teachers, and are you seeing those tools with which they're equipped, are you seeing them happen in the classroom? And what's happening when you go into the classroom? Are you seeing students engaged? And, I think in student engagement, a student involvement and commitment to their own learning is incredibly important. Are they excited about what they're learning and where this is going to take them? So student engagement is huge. And I think, I can talk forever about the educational piece of it. I think the social emotional piece is important. Do you have things in place, as I've mentioned, that will support children in crisis, families in crises? Do you have these alternative avenues for children to be able to learn and be taken care of, as well as are you fiscally sound? Are you following sound fiscal practices? Because if a district is not fiscally sound and able to follow practices, that's a huge indicator, and that's hugely important, because what happens at that level is absolutely what supports what happens in the classroom. And so where are your resources going, and are they going? I get back to the plan. Do you have a plan that you've indicated what's important for you and what goals are important for you, and that becomes that roadmap, and your resources need to follow that roadmap and a sound and healthy way that's going to provide for children what they need to be successful. So it's all tied together.
Okay, thank you. Keith is up next with his question.
Hi, Keith.
Keith, you're still on mute.
Elko County School District operates under a pay-as-you-go system. How would you compare this with the bond system most school districts operate under?
You know, that's an interesting question, and I have to tell you, I did research on that, within the research that I did, and I'll be very honest with you, it was new to me, and I had to do some reading to understand what that means and how it relates. And I'm familiar with the bond system, so it seems to me that it if I'm reading and understanding it correctly, that it really is you've got the long-term bonding, but you're getting it in smaller chunks so that you're meeting the needs in the capital improvement plans that you have created. And so, I mean, that was how I understood it, and the way that I actually thought it was really an interesting way to do it, because you are, we make our plans. Let me back up here. We have our capital improvement plan, and every year we put out our capital improvement plan, and every year we identify those projects that we are going to tackle, and we create that based on the money that we have been able to put into capital improvement for that summer is usually when these big projects are done. So, but this is, we're fortunate in this particular district that this is something that we are doing, with our reserves that we have. I know in previous experiences I've had, there's had to be the bonding, and it really is by project, and you get the bond for that project. This sounds like there's a commitment for meeting the plan, and then being able to get the money as the piece is coming up.
Good afternoon, Michele. This is Ira.
Hi, Ira.
How does the superintendent ensure that the curriculum
I got
and
it.
instruction
You better take it
happening
off me.
in the school district meeting the students?
Okay, Ira.
Sorry, Keith.
Thank you, Keith. I'm sorry.
I can read that again. How does the superintendent ensure that the curriculum and instruction happening within the school district is meeting the students' needs?
Okay, so I heard the question was, how do we ensure that the curriculum and programming is meeting the students' needs?
Yes.
There was not, okay. I think there was a delay, so I wasn't sure if I missed something. One of the practices that I've put into place, really more so in my current district, is that idea of professional learning communities, and in those professional learning communities, utilizing data to inform the instruction and the decisions that you make in regards to instruction. And, it's sort of it's a very simple process, actually. And I just think that I feel that, and I work with educators on the idea that we're collecting data, and we're tracking how our children are doing. And we have this incredible program that we've just put into place in my current district, and it's a powerful data warehouse, and it allows us to, we've got all sorts of assessment tools that we utilize, some that I know Elko utilizes, Dibbles, and just a variety of tests. I'm very familiar with the with MAP that Elko utilizes, but taking those data points and tracking, and just simply watching and seeing how our children are progressing. And if you're keeping an eye on that, and then you're also teaching people how to track those data points and what they mean, and utilizing a variety of assessment points. It's not just the end of the year assessments that we utilize, but also the formative assessments that you're taking along the way. It's the informal assessments that you're doing daily in the classroom. Everything that you're doing has the potential to inform how you're progressing through the curriculum. And we're mindful of progressing through the curriculum, and providing materials that are going to support the work of as they work through the curriculum. But it's about data. I mean, it just boils down to keeping an eye on the data and watching the progress. And then another very important piece, and this is a program that we've built in the past, it's taken us about 2 or 3 years, but a really strong response to intervention program. And that is about data, and that is about putting interventions in place, because I always say to people, I don't care who you are, every single one of us here today have had to have at some point some kind of intervention to help us work our way through something. And our children are no different. And it doesn't mean that there's something inherently wrong with a child or we have this problem. It just means we've come across something and we need to make sure that we have the right intervention that's going to help them work through it. And that's what the response intervention model is about, but it is also about providing the intervention and then collecting the data to make sure that that intervention is working or it's not working. We need to go in a different direction. I mean, the data is just important to inform us all along the way. And then ultimately, we can take a look at the data. We can take a look at the end of the year exams. We can take a look at the formative assessments, and we can see, did we make it from point A to where we wanted to go as far as our student growth went? And I look at it all the way across throughout the process. I think it's important.
Thank you. Teresa, I think you've got the next question.
Yep. All right, Michele, what procedures or guidelines are necessary to keep the community informed about the school district and its schools, and how will you foster community relations with all the communities in our district?
Again, that's my favorite part, because it's about relationships and it's about being able to get out and know people and connecting with people. So it's the thing that I love to do the most. Right now in my current district, this was a practice they had set up, but I've continued with it and I've enhanced it. Once a month, I meet with all PTA presidents. It's directly after a board meeting, and we meet, and we're even doing it now, even though we didn't have a board meeting yet. We've still met Monday night. We met remotely because they are our communicators. They're our key communicators in the community, and it's important that we're constantly sharing ideas and things together. And they are able to bring messages to the community, and they are able to get information to me, something on things that the community wants to know about. And that's what they do, is build community. So it's really been an absolute pleasure to enhance the PTAs and to give them the support they need so that they can build that community. I also get out a lot and I create partnerships. I have a partnership right now with a local hospital because we were developing and we're still continuing with it, an employee wellness program. So I'm working in partnership with the hospital to do that. And while we're doing that, we're also bringing in other partners who might be able to do other pieces. And the intent is for next school year to roll out a comprehensive employee wellness program that's all done through partnerships. So it's bringing partners in, it's getting them excited. And as a result of that, the hospital, which is it's a comprehensive big hospital in our area, and they've asked me to sit on a panel because their objective is to find out what the community needs and then to be able to provide it to the community. So they asked me to be on their steering committee so that they can, do that work. Obviously, we had to stop it. They have more important things right now to be working on, but it's something that, came out of this partnership that I created. I have a wonderful partnership. We work really close with our first responders. Our police department is in our schools and they work very closely with us, and getting input from them and being able to have that communication with them has really brought the community in. They do a lot of wonderful activities. We partner with them and we're out there in the community and getting them involved in it. I know that you have a challenge with some parts of the county that are more remote, but there's ways to get. We can bring it to them, and now that we're really getting involved in the remote meeting and getting together. I don't think this piece right now, I think it's really different for all of us to be meeting like this, but I think it's going to continue. I know I've been meeting with my family in Las Vegas, and I never did that before. So, but now we all get together on Zoom, and I think we'll continue to do those kinds of things. So I think that's a wonderful piece to it. But there's also taking it to them and being able to go out and my first year in a district is all about getting to know the district, and I hold coffees, and I come and meet the superintendent, and I go to PTA meetings, and I go to community meetings that might be happening at the different schools. And so I envision it would be the same thing with Elko. I know it is a goal, it is a desire of the board and of the district to have that parental involvement, to have community involvement. And, it's exciting to be able to work on building those partnerships and bringing people together.
Absolutely. Partnerships are definitely important. All right, the next question will come from Tammy.
Okay, Tammy.
All right, I'm back.
Hi, Tammy.
How will you determine what information the board members need to know in their role? How do you plan to develop trust between yourself and the board?
That's a great question, Tammy, because that's critically important. Because as the liaison for the board, there has to be that foundation of trust. And I communicate a lot with the board. Every Friday, I send out a board update. I let them know what's happened. I also call the board president quite a bit over the course of the week if something has come up. And we talk a lot about, where we're going and, how we're meeting our goals. So, communication is just key. And I know that I probably have been accused of maybe talking too much, as you may have seen here, but I just feel it's really important that they know what's happening in the district. I don't want them to be blindsided by anything, and they are very respectful of understanding that they're not in the day-to-day, and we leave the day-to-day. They leave that to me. But if there's something that's happening that could get out to the community, or something happening in the community, or something that is significant that I want to make sure they understand what's behind it, I'm on the phone with them. I'm sending out emails. If we have a child, for instance, just as an example, if we have a child and it had a medical emergency, we have children that have maybe a seizure disorder, and an ambulance comes to pick the children up, the board knows before that ambulance is gone that there was an ambulance at the school. They know these things because they're the ones that people get nervous when they see anything emergency, and they're going to be saying to the board, likely first, your constituents will be going, what's going on? And you've got to be able to say, it's okay, everything's taken care of. So I think that, in my experience, that's the way you do it, is you build, is the communication. That's what builds the trust. I also take the time, should I have the honor of being in Elko, I would take the time to sit and get to know each one of you. And as I said, sometimes I talk too much. That may not be what your desire is, but I take the time to get to know each one of you, because each one of you has a reason, has something that's near and dear to your heart that has you doing what you do. Because again, what you do is not glamorous. And you're doing it because you have a desire to do something and to give back to your community. And I want to know what that is for you. And so just by taking the time to get to know each other, we're able to know what your experiences are, to tell you more about my experiences, builds that trust. And then the actual trust comes over time. We're going to have experiences together. Things are going to happen in the district, and you're going to see how I handle them. And that's what's going to build trust. And, when you see that I say what I mean, and I do what I say I'm going to do, I'm not perfect, and I'll be the first one to go, oops, sorry about that. but I'll also learn from it and we'll grow from it together. And, I've said this before, I'm just a nice person. I'm easy to get along with. I really like people. And it makes the whole relationship building really important. I mean, really, it facilitates that.
Awesome. I'm a people person too, so I love it.
Great.
I will hand you over to Brian.
Okay, great. Brian?
Okay, please describe how you would be engaged and handle the legislative process, both at the federal and state level, and what priority would you give it in the day-to-day operation of the school district?
Well, that, I don't know if you saw in my resume, I have a lot of experience, particularly when I was in Nevada, working with the legislature. And there were many times when I would go to Carson City and I would speak before the legislature, or even in Las Vegas when they did the remote, on a number of issues that, we felt were important. I was asked to serve on the governor's task force when the Race to the Top grant was being developed for Nevada. So I was, and it was at that point that I made a lot of connections and with our legislators. I was in Carson City quite frequently. And I also was asked by the National Charter School Association to do lobbying for charter schools at the federal level. So there were a number of times that I was in Washington, D.C., speaking to our representatives there. And so, and I loved it. It was really exciting to be able to be right there in the middle of the legislative process. I found it fascinating. And so I enjoy that. And in my current district, I've gotten to know our legislators, our local legislators, and when we've had issues that come up, I don't have any problem writing support and, talking to our legislators. I think I did more of that in my previous district out here, out east, where they, lived in our community, and we had a lot of work because we were dealing with that level funding. We were dealing with a funding formula that was not working, and they had also created a commission, and we were doing a lot of work and, getting information to our legislators so that they could adequately represent us as they were working through that commission. I look forward to being involved again, and I think that Nevada, and I'm not sure I know why, but I think Nevada lends itself to that, to being involved in that legislative process. And there's a lot that goes on during the season that the legislature is in session, and there are issues that are coming up all the time. When I was there, it was the Common Core standards. They had just been adopted. It was 2010, I believe, that they had just been adopted, and I was asked to be on the steering committee for the state in rolling out the Common Core across the state. And then I also worked on the committee that created the professional development, particularly for administrators. So again, I was in Carson City quite frequently, working on the task force in getting that put together. I was working with the Department of Education directly in putting that together. So I just think it's, again, I having been in other states, I know that Nevada, there's a greater opportunity for it, and an opportunity to really have your voice heard as a district and be represented in these important issues that come up that will impact the district.
Thank you, Michelle. Those are great answers. Jim is next.
Michele, great leaders inspire success. In your opinion, what is the most effective way to improve student and teacher success within a school district system?
I'll go back. Well, a couple of things, and I have touched on these before, is first of all, having a plan and having a vision that has been created together. And I can't emphasize enough that it has to be created together. I have we created a strategic plan in my current district, and we brought the community together, so we all understand where we're going, and we all know that when we're asking for funds or we're putting our funds in place, we're following that path that we created, and we have fulfilled quite a few commitments that we made to the community through that process, and I think that it is not only that, but it's, again, the relationships. And it is so important when you make that commitment in that vision that your resources are following that goal, and you're putting the tools in the hands of the people that matter the most, and they're the ones that are sitting in front of your children, and you're making sure that they have what they need in order to be successful in what they're doing. When I was in my previous district, and again, we were really struggling and challenged with that level funding, I remember thinking one day, oh my God, what is my job here? Because it was so frustrating to be challenged with how are we going to make up this shortfall? How are we going to find it? So what is the purpose of what I do? And I said, the purpose of what I do is to make sure what resources we have are in the hands of the people that need them, in the hands of the people that matter. And then to give them the guidance, and then to get out of the way. That's what a good leader does, is to get out, but make sure they have it, and make sure that they're all going towards that vision and towards that ideal that we have for our community and our district. That's the core of leadership.
Thank you. And Candace has the next question.
What would you consider as a desirable working relationship among the board, the superintendent, and the administration? And what does delegation mean to you?
Again, a relationship that's built on trust, and trusting that the board is there, and also with the common goal of doing what's best for children, that every decision that the board makes is made through the lens of what's best for children. And that engenders trust in the administration. For the administration, it is, that relationship of being able to also be trusted to know that they are doing what's best for children. Sort of that working together. Now, Candace, what was the second part of that question? I want to make sure I don't miss that.
Yeah. What does delegation mean to you?
Yeah. So delegation, I'm going to say that over the years, over my 12 years as a superintendent, I've gotten good at it. And I say that because I wasn't always good at it. And I always, felt that if I wanted something done right, I was the one that had to get out there and do it. And now what I've recognized, in over the years, is that by smart delegation, you are providing opportunities for people also to grow and to expand and to become leaders and to really shine in the area in which they work. So delegation is also, for me, a collaborative effort. I meet weekly with the superintendent's, we call it the superintendent's cabinet, and it's the top level administration, and we meet and we say, all right, what are you working on this week? What's important and paramount for you? And how can we help you? What sort of supports can we do as a team to help you work through what you're working through? And we delegate with each other together a lot of our tasks at that point. Sometimes we say, okay, I've got this. And sometimes we say together, I could use the help from this department, and we can use the help over here. And as I said, we delegate that together. So I think delegation it has to be healthy, and it has to be with the idea that we are supporting each other. I still like to have my hands in. I like to know what's happening. I love education, so I want to know what's happening with the curriculum, the operations, and that piece of it. It's incredibly important. I want to know what's going on, and I want to say, what is it that I can do to help support what you're doing in the delegation? But I think you also, you also have to be able to do it. And I think the reality is the superintendent of a district, particularly a large comprehensive district like Elko, you can't do it all, nor should you try to do it all. And so you've got to be able to let go and know what those pieces, and again, be able to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening while also giving the people the latitude to be able to do what it is that they do best.
Thank you. Keith, your turn.
Okay, I got the mute off. Select a change initiative that you have led. What steps did you make to ensure that the change was implemented fully, and how did you know the change was having the desired impact?
I've had a lot of opportunity to do that, and I'm going to pick one. And I'm going to pick one because it was kind of a bold thing to do. I had just gotten to my previous district. I had just moved out from the West Coast, and here I was in a relatively small, suburban and rural, has rural pieces to it, community. And I thought a rather bold move. But we had, at the time, a lot of, and they still do, a large number of students with special needs. And we were, we didn't have schools like in Las Vegas. If you have children that have special needs and they need to be in specialized programs, the district has those specialized programs right there in the district. In other smaller communities, you don't necessarily have that. Out here in the East Coast, we have partnerships or with private schools that have been approved by the state, and we might have to send a child to a private school that's been approved in order to receive their education. And we had a large number of students that were going out to these schools, and we had a large number of students that were in our district. And we had special education teachers that were doing incredible work teaching and doing the paperwork and doing the IEPs and working with the parents, and every aspect of the special education piece they were doing as if they were supervisors as well as educators in the paperwork. And I'm sure you recognize that special education is just inundated with mountains of paperwork. And I felt that wasn't the best use of our teachers, because I felt that they were quickly going to burn out, but they also they needed to be able to parcel out their time so that they could give to students. And so we had, this was a reorganization that we did. I mean, there were a lot of moving parts to it, but what we created was the position of a special education supervisor. And it wasn't really, it was a sort of a quasi-administrative, so it didn't add to administrative cost, but it did have them out of the classroom. And their jobs were, and we had them at the different levels, and their jobs were to work with the parents so that they could create these relationships with parents, to do the paperwork, to do all the paperwork that comes to holding an IEP, to holding 3-year evals, the yearly, the annuals that have to be done. It's just time and time and paperwork and paperwork. And so these supervisors were able to do that, and they also acted as liaisons between the teachers and the families. And so the way that, Keith, that I checked the success of that was in our teachers and where they were spending their time. Once we were able to figure it out, we had to make a lot of modifications to it. It wasn't just perfect out of the gate. We had to do some changes and figure out, first of all, had to put the right people in the positions as we reorganized. and then make some modifications in that way. But we were able to see that teachers were spending more time with students on educating them, and they were able to provide the data that they needed in these evaluations that they had, their annuals and their 3-year evals. They were able to provide that with more comprehensive data and information because they were working and spending time working with the kids. It wasn't perfect. You just can't take all the paperwork out of special education. As a teacher, you just can't do it. I wish we could have. But it also cut down on the mistake of, I didn't get that form out to the parent and have them sign it in the number of days that they're supposed to get that signed. And they didn't have to coordinate, the teachers didn't have to coordinate the psychologist and the speech therapist and all these other related services. You know, that went in the hands of somebody else. And so, and that was how it really was being able to, it was qualitative in our being able to determine its success. And it was incredibly successful. We were able to do it in a way that didn't cut into the budget. It wasn't perfect. If I'd had all the money in the world, I could have had all kinds of supervisors there to help and to do it. But given what we had and given what I felt the need was, it was an important change and was successful and continues to be. I know they're still doing it.
Thank you. You were a little bit close to my heart because I'm a former special ed teacher.
Oh, are you? Oh, that's wonderful. I love special ed.
Okay. The next questioner will be Ira Wines.
There's a shortage of teachers. What's a personal recruitment and retention process?
I'm sorry, Ira, you're kind of cutting out a little bit.
Sorry about that. With the shortage of teachers that we have, what's a personal recruitment and retention process that you could use? I recognized in my research that there was a shortage, and that is, wow, that's difficult. I can tell you what we do here, and some ideas that I think would work is I know that you have a good relationship with Great Basin, and, I think it's important to have those relationships with the colleges and providing opportunities for teachers, students that are going to school to be teachers, to get them involved in your district while they're going to school, to provide those opportunities for them to come in and be a part of the district. And, that you kind of do a grassroots effort that way. We have currently, we have a lot of teachers' aides that are certified, and I know we, in my previous district, we did this as well too. We really worked to support aides as they were, had an interest in going to school, and again, providing as much support as we could, not necessarily in financial support, but in ways that we could, so that they could get their certification, and we were able to pull from our teachers' aides, which was wonderful. And then, we have substitutes also that we work with, and we recognize and identify those that we think might be, good additions to the school. And that certainly isn't going to, take care of I know it's a significant challenge for Elko, and that wouldn't, necessarily be it. But I always say, let's look inside and see what we have and see how we can cultivate that resource from within. And then how can we reach out? What does that look like to reach out to our higher ed institutions and say, let's partner and, bring people in? Because when they, so often when student teachers are going to school and learning their craft and they're working in your district, they fall in love with your district, and you can sort of raise them up the way you would like them to be in your programming. And I think it's it's also we're doing a lot of outreach on social media here. That was something that I said, come on, we're doing such great things in our district. Why are we not touting how great we are in social media outlets? And we revamped our website, and we got into some outlets, and we talk about how great our district is, and we talk about how great our community is, and that has gotten some interest from people. So I think in order to attract people and attract quality educators, it becomes a grassroots campaign to get them interested, and then tap into the resources you have in the community.
Thank you. Just curiosity's sake, does on the East Coast, is it hard to hire teachers? Hard to find teachers? Hard to hire them? Hard to keep them?
Not right. I think it depends. It's not so much at the elementary level. There's a lot of, we have quite a resource for elementary level teachers, but at the secondary level, and particularly when you get into the STEM subject areas, it can be very difficult. And the languages, the world languages, we really struggle with finding quality instructors to be able to work with a world language. And I'm not willing to settle for okay. So we would rather take the time and find somebody who's going to be quality, or at least that we're going to be able to help them rise to the level that we want to see them. So there are some challenges, but not like what I understand is there for you in Elko.
Thank you. Teresa's got the last question for you.
All right, Michele, we are in the middle of an international pandemic, which presents new challenges and new opportunities in education. How will you tackle this situation moving forward?
I always say to people, and now they say it back to me too, is that anytime something would happen, and we have certainly had our share of challenges in our district, I always say, what's the opportunity in this challenge that's before us? And to butcher something Churchill said is, don't waste a perfectly good crisis. Let's not waste it. And we look for the opportunity in it. And I think that my team is making fun of me when they say it to me now, but it doesn't matter. They're still recognizing the opportunity. I think that this experience that we're having is ripe with opportunity. And I think we're experiencing it right here, is still finding these ways to communicate and to reach out. And I think the other thing, this was something that kind of came to me the other day, so I haven't tried it out, I haven't said it out loud, so I'll try it out here with you guys, is I think we're really understanding, because we have such an emphasis, and I've really impressed upon our board, our district, our community, how important it is that we attend to our students' mental and social emotional health. This is an opportunity to see it and to experience it ourselves, because we are social creatures, and our children need the adults in their lives who give them support and love during the course of the school year. They need that, and we're really seeing it unfold. And we're experiencing it ourselves. And I think when we come together in the brick and mortar environment, that's an opportunity. I plan that feeling, that understanding, that compassion that we're developing in this situation. That's an opportunity I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to capitalize on, because I think it's critical. It's critical to our kids. It's critical to our success. We're also, if you're looking at the nuts and bolts of it, we created, as I said, we had our one-to-one environment, and thank God that we did, because we were able then to transition. We had 48 hours notice that we were going to be going into this environment. And so we put together an amazing plan in a very short amount of time. And we had children on that plan for 3 weeks while we were in the background working on what we've called Distance Learning 2.0. And now that we have this format, we just unrolled it this past Monday, and it really is a fantastic platform that is going to allow us to really provide meaningful teaching and learning to our children. And we're feeling very confident that we're not going to have to do a pass-fail. We're going to keep collecting grades. We're going to be, concerning ourselves with their GPA because they still want to get into college. We still, want to be able to give them the supports that they need in order to be successful going on. And we're going to be able to do that. And we would not have created this platform had we not had to in this situation. And I'm so proud of the work that they've done. It's amazing work that the team has put together. And I think it's a model. And I think we're going to have opportunity to use it again, whether it be to replace snow days or to provide an alternative environment for our children, like you have at the academy, like I had in Las Vegas with the charter school. It's just ripe with opportunity for kids. And I'm really, it's the good thing. I keep saying, guys, the good things are coming out of this. And this is definitely one of them.
Well, thank you. I your optimism. I appreciate that because I always think there's good that can come out of any situation. So now we'd like to have you take some time if you have any questions for the board or any final thoughts you want to share with us.
You know what? I have a million questions. There were so many things as I was doing my research. I then found that there was so much more I wanted to know. But I know that this is an exhausting process that you're doing, and I don't want to bog you down with a million questions. If I'm so fortunate to be able to join Elko, I'll ask you all those questions at that point. But I do have one question, and I don't expect everyone to answer. Maybe one or two people could answer. But in my research, I read articles about when members had been, when they were running or when they had been elected. And there were two things that I really saw that really stood out. Number one, you have a complete love for your district and an absolute heart for the work that you do. And you appreciate the professionals that you have working in the district. And I also heard as a second part that there were things that people saw that they said, wow, I want to be a part of making an improvement because I see a way that we can improve as a district. So just a couple of people, you might be able to say to me, what were some of those things? And do you feel that you're on the road to being able to create that, to meet that improvement? I stumped y'all.
I love that question. I'm seeing lots of smiling faces. And I'm going to ask Candace if she will take this question as one of the, two or three that they're going to answer it, because I know she has it she would like to share.
You broke up there at the end, Teresa. I didn't hear the end. I would say that, yeah, I am a board member who's very much about my constituents. They elected me for a reason. They wanted me to speak for them. And so that's the perspective I come from as a board member of a lot of times, while still maintaining that, yes, we must do what's in the end the right thing to do for our kids and make sure that they are excelling not only at academics, but our sports, our FFAs, our other organizations that we have within the school. So that's where I come from. So hopefully that helped you.
It did. Thank you.
I'll interject a little bit. I first off, I ran with an agenda, which you should never do. I wanted our K through 4 schools converted back to K through 6 because I absolutely hate the intermediate school system. I have a 5th grader. I still hate it, and I've been on the board for almost 4 years now. And that's exactly how far I got with it. It's not going to happen. It's not economically possible for our district. after I let that go, which I let it go pretty fast after I got on the board, and our superintendent at the time set me straight pretty fast as well, which was helpful. I realized, like, I just love this county. I work as a tax appraiser for the county. I travel all over it all the time, and I'm just as at home in Wendover as I am in Elko. I'm from Elko, grew up in Elko. I love the people of Wendover. I love the people of Carlin. And those are some communities that are underserved. And, you know, they have a representative, but of course it's by population. So they're not as heard all the time. And I realized I want to be a voice for Wendover. I want to be a voice for Jackpot, Carlin, these tiny areas that are challenged geographically and economically in a lot of ways. And it is the greatest joy of my life. Honestly, I live for this. This is what I was meant to do. And I'm so happy to be here. And I'm glad I dropped my agenda so that I could enjoy the fruits of serving the whole rather than the self-interest. But I still need intermediate school.
What a great learning opportunity for you. That's great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was something that it came through, as I said, in what I read and what I saw in videos and even in board minutes. And I was curious. Thank you. Teresa, that's all I have. I think I've shown you who I am and what I value and, you know, what I think is most important. And that is our children and what we can do together to give them what it is that they need to the best of our ability.
Absolutely, and we so appreciate your time and your perspective, and it's been great to get to know you over this last little while with your questions and your thoughts, and we just want to let you know Dr. Oliver will be getting in touch with you within 10 days, and we'll go from there, but thank you so much for your time, and I'll let the board kind of tell you goodbye as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Michele. It's great meeting you.
Thank you. It was great to meet you. It was my honor, my pleasure. Thank you very much. Take care. Good luck. Good luck.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I will slip out now if I can.
All right. Good night.
How to do this. I'll do the awkward exit. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Okay, goodbye.
We'll need a motion from the board. Oh, good.
I move to recess until 12:30 tomorrow.
Second.
Right?
I
We have a
second.
motion. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recess until 12:30 tomorrow. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and we are recessed until
Aye.
tomorrow. Thank you.